Imagine spending billions of dollars on a top-secret supersonic airplane, only for your doofus pal to tell everyone about it on your favorite video game forum. Damn it, Dave! But crazy as it sounds, that actually happened. From planes that can travel faster than the speed of sound, to AI-controlled drones capable of deploying devastating automated weapons. Buckle up, folks. We're about to check out some top-secret military aircraft that have been leaked to the public. Sharp Sword of China. We all have that friend who's also kind of a rival, right? Like in the Pokemon games, you take the fire Pokemon, they take the water one. I guess that kind of sums up the relationship between the USA and China. In November 2013, the world caught its first glimpse of the CCP's deathly Hongdu Sharp Sword GJ-11 drone. And that one-upsmanship was put on full display. When photos of the unmanned combat drone first leaked to the internet, observers were quick to note its similarities to the American RQ-170 drone. I mean, just look at it. Because of this, some people reckon the Eastern country has utilized its espionage network to steal Western designs. Unlike the purely reconnaissance-focused RQ-170 though, the GJ-11 can apparently fire precision-guided missiles and satellite-guided bombs, and is capable of taking off from amphibious assault ships, making it far more attack-focused. It wouldn't be until 2022 that China would go public about the plane's existence, but there are still many mysteries surrounding it. What's it going to be used for? When? And how? The even bigger question is, does it stand up to what's in the United States armory? Until we know more, we'll just have to wait and see. Dastardly dark web hackers. Whenever I buy a new laptop, the first thing I do is stick tape over the camera. Not just to hide from the government though. Criminal hackers pose a risk too. Don't believe me? Well, let me tell you about GlobalEye. No, not GoldenEye. GlobalEye. It's an airborne radar system used by the United Arab Emirates Air Force that alerts the country's military of incoming nasties. You know, tanks, ships, intercontinental ballistic missiles, Duran Duran fans. It's usually installed in Bombardier's Global 6000 or 6500 aircrafts. But in 2021, details of the advanced reconnaissance system were leaked on the dark web by a group of ransomware attackers. That's people who hold data hostage and demand money for it to either be accessed again or kept from leaking. Oof. The details of the system were initially acquired when the hackers broke into Bombardier systems, and it's thought that Bombardier refused to pay the ransom. So true to their word, the hackers dropped the leaks. Damn. Criminals they might be, but at least they're not liars, I guess. Personally, I choose to make a living through an honest, respectable way, making amazing content for you. So go ahead and hit those like and subscribe buttons and you'll never miss another video again. All done? Great. What's up next? Spacebound Sukhoi. Next up, we have the catchily named Sukhoi S-70 Akhonatic B. The public's first sighting of this Russian stealth drone came when leaked photos of the craft being towed along an airfield were posted on social media in January 2019. Yet today, we still know very little about it, making it the subject of many wild rumors. One of the more outlandish of these is that it can reach outer space provided it's fitted with suitable engines. Crikey. Why it would need to is unclear. Perhaps to break the Outer Space Treaty and invade the moon? Who knows? We do know it's expected to be able to reach a whopping 621 miles an hour and be armed with missiles that can travel at least 186 miles. That's the distance between New York City and Providence. What's more, the targeting system on this thing is apparently so advanced it can detect targets from nearly 250 miles away. So if it has you in its sights, well, good luck. Stalkhawk. You might have heard of the Black Hawk helicopter. It's become a somewhat iconic symbol of the US military, but you probably didn't know a version of it exists made specifically for stealth. Wait, a stealthy helicopter? I know, crazy, right? You can hear a chopper coming from half a state away, at least an ordinary chopper, but when US SEALs were sent on a top-secret mission to Pakistan back in 2011, they weren't using ordinary choppers. And that's not something the public was supposed to know. During the mission, one of the special Blackhawks got damaged and couldn't leave the country. So in order to prevent anybody reverse engineering it, the SEALs were ordered to completely destroy it. Only they failed. The tail survived. And some someone on the ground took photos of it before publishing them online for the whole world to see. The ground tail rotor gearbox was covered, which isn't typical of a Blackhawk and was probably to try and muffle the noise. It also had 5 or 6 blades instead of 4. More blades means each blade can be smaller, and smaller blades make less noise. On top of this, the tail fin was completely smooth and covered in a pearlescent material, probably made to absorb radar waves. After the raid, Pakistani officials said that the 2 modified Blackhawks had completely evaded radar, so the designs were clearly successful. It really makes you think. What else can the US military do without anybody knowing? I'm hiding my collection of rare Barbie dolls right now. Laser Fighter. The Northrop Grumman B-21 Raider. This futuristic lord of the skies was named to honor Lieutenant Colonel James Doolittle, who in World War II led a squad of 16 B-25 Mitchell medium bombers in a mission against the Imperial Japanese. The men known as the Doolittle Raiders were so successful that they changed the course of the war in the Pacific. Dang. Back in the present, the American-built B-21 Raider is a classified strategic bomber designed to be easily upgraded if needed. It's been under development since 2015 after a developmental contract was awarded to aerospace and defense tech companies Northrop Grumman. Despite most of the project being highly classified though, some details have been released to those in the know. The sleek-looking craft will be able to deliver both conventional and thermonuclear weapons, as well as provide reconnaissance. Craziest of all though, it's touted to be the first ever 6th-generation fighter. That means it could incorporate artificial intelligence, which would streamline information, improve targeting, and provide pilots with real-time info on the war zone. Oh, and it could also have, yes, you're hearing me right here, lasers, or directed energy weapons as the boring folks in weapons development like to call them. But we all know that means lasers. Of course, nobody wants war, but if the worst ever happens, I'd rather be on the side with the futuristic Star Wars-esque death beam. Feel my wrath. Gamers gone wild. Gamers. I shook hands with a gamer once, so I've definitely got nothing against them. But drama seems to follow them wherever they go, whether it's getting mouthy in Call of Duty lobbies or publishing restricted military information on video game forums. Wait, what? Yeah. In a few short years, players of the online war MMO War Thunder have found and leaked confidential information on everything from tanks and choppers to aircraft. All because they wanted to win arguments over which is the best. Seriously. One such gamer known as Space Navy 90 was in the middle of a heated online debate back in 2022 about the US F-16 fighter jet. To make a point about War Thunder's accuracy, he posted restricted information about the aircraft online. Very clever. So the F-16 Falcon fighter is an all-purpose American supersonic fighter jet capable of flying more than double the speed of sound. Whoa. Armed with a 20mm rotary cannon and able to fire and drop a variety of different weapons, it's considered one of the most capable military jets in history, and it was introduced to War Thunder in 2022. Mr. Space Navy 90 backed up his claim about the fighter by attaching 4 documents to his forum post. 3 were research reports on some missiles the F-16 was used to test, and the 4th was an F-16 pilot's handbook on said missiles. How the heck did Space Navy 90 get his hands on all that? Is he actually an anti-NATO agent sent from a hostile country posing as a gamer to cause a bit of aggro? Well, that's unlikely. And paranoid, if my therapist is to be believed. American journalist Noah Smith theorized that the gamers responsible for these leaks are probably military personnel themselves or wily salespeople. I'm unsure what happened to Space Navy 90 in the end, but one thing's obvious. Publishing restricted information to a forum for the world to see is not going to get you on the US government's good side. What do you think, guys? I can't help but wonder what it means for national security if gamers can get a hold of and leak sensitive information about a nation's defensive capabilities. But hey, at least they get to send their fake flocks of F-16 Falcons into their digital combat zones, right? Right? The White Bat. Ever think you'd see an aircraft that the Batman might use in real life? No? Well, you're right. You won't see it. Because this plane called the White Bat or Northrop Grumman RQ-180 isn't for your eyes yet. It's so secret, we don't know if White Bat is an accurate description at all. The American stealth drone is so classified that aside from the basic fact of its development, no images or statements have ever been officially released. But there is some speculation that it's been seen flying over the Philippines and Area 51. Are any of these secret aircraft not associated with Area 51? To add to the mystery, in November of 2021, the U.S. Air Force released a video in which it made a cryptic reference to a next-gen white bat, seemingly confirming it's still very much in development.
The days of balloons and biplanes have been replaced by white bats.
If reports are to be believed, the white bat has been stalking the sky since 2010 under constant examination and evaluation from the Air Force, but it still remains as elusive as ever. So I guess it is worthy of being associated with the Batman. Let's just hope there's no equivalent Joker aircraft to worry about. Aurora Black Triangle. If you thought the RQ-180 was as secret as it gets, think again. I've got something so secret, so under wraps, that the US government denies its existence entirely. In fact, it's been decried as nothing more than an urban legend by military experts. I'm talking about the Aurora. The legend of this enigmatic aircraft began in March of 1990 when aircraft magazine Aviation Week in Space Technology broke the news that $455 million had been allocated towards black aircraft production in the 1985 US budget, which also featured the word Aurora. After that, so-called sightings of the weird craft quickly started springing up from both American and British citizens, and most of these sightings shared one characteristic. The so-called Aurora was a unique triangular shape, the likes of which had never been seen before. Before we get carried away though, I've done some of my own digging, and trust me, the 1985 budget doesn't mention either black aircraft production or the word Aurora. Oh. It seems Aviation Week made up the shocking claims to garner hype. What a bunch of frauds. Okay, but what about the sightings? Well, a lot of these alleged sightings could be explained by the fact that triangular aircraft like the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber are now known to have been tested around the same time. So it's likely that people were just seeing test flights or prototypes of those crafts. Regardless, the legend persists even today with sightings as recent as this 2022 one. Even if that photo is completely unedited though, don't you think it looks pretty similar to this B-2 bomber being escorted by a couple of fighters? Yeah, it's not an uncommon formation. But wait, the strangest part of all this is that a patent for something a whole lot like the legendary craft actually exists. Held by one John St. Clair, it was filed in 2004 and goes into pages of detail describing what the craft is made from and how it could fly. Yet aside from this strange document, we know very little about St. Clair himself. Is he even a real person, or just smoke and mirrors? Man, it's a mystery wrapped in an enigma. What do you think? Is the Aurora fact or fiction? Let me know in the comments down below. Soviet snitches and foxbats. Is it okay to snitch on your country? No, says the man in Washington. Well, that is, unless you're snitching to him instead of on him. Then it's totally cool. Enter Viktor Belenko. Belenko was born in Soviet Russia in 1947. Like many men in communist Russia, Belenko joined the military and eventually ended up becoming a pilot in the Soviet Air Defense Forces. He was stationed at Chugayevka Primorsky Krai, a neglected base in desperate need of repairs. Viktor went to his superiors to offer solutions, but he was ignored. Being sidelined while trying to stand up for his comrades left Viktor disillusioned with communism, and on the 6th of September 1976 he heard the call of freedom and decided to fly to the nearest Western Allied airport, Hakodate in Japan, with the aim of defecting to the West. He flew there in a top-secret Mikhail Gurevich MiG-25 Foxbat, a Russian interceptor and reconnaissance bomber. At the time, the plane was incredibly feared by the US military. See, Washington thought it was the MiG-23, a different fighter they knew little about other than that it could be mass-produced at low cost. The aircraft was supposedly capable of besting the speed of sound, surveying, and bombing, making it potentially more formidable than the US's own SR-71. But when Viktor showed up to defect at Hakodate Airport and won, without being noticed thanks to bad weather and poor Japanese air defenses, he brought along a manual. After studying it, the US realized the Foxbat was nowhere near as advanced as they thought. It couldn't hit either the speed or altitude of the SR-71 and lacked a sophisticated radar system. In other words, old Viktor was embraced with open arms. He since lived peacefully in the USA, working as an author and consultant to the US government. I wish life was that easy for me, but hey, I didn't give the government a major breakthrough during a time of intense international tensions. Or did I? The Mighty Dragon. Remember when I told you how China's probably stealing US drone designs? Well, that's not the only thing they've been accused of stealing from the West. This here is the Chengdu Mighty Dragon. Taking a good enough look? Great. Now here's the American F-22 Raptor. Look familiar? That's because the Mighty Dragon was likely designed with stolen information on the F-22. The US government is convinced that successful Chinese espionage efforts have resulted in the country getting a hold of top-secret fighter plane designs. The result? China is now one of the only 3 nations alongside Russia and the US to have an advanced 5th-generation fighter in its arsenal. That means fighters on the cutting edge of modern stealth tech with agile frames, advanced electronic features, and capable of sustained supersonic flight. Basically, the Mighty Dragon shouldn't be underestimated. After a group of American F-35s flew beside some of the Chinese aircraft over the East China Sea back in 2022, U.S. pilots were impressed with the rival planes. What's more, over 200 of them may be combat ready. But while the Dragon is undoubtedly impressive, many experts say it still doesn't stand up to the F-35's stealth capabilities. You know what I think? We should get US and Chinese pilots to stage one huge game of hide and seek at 50,000 feet. It's the only sure way of knowing which plane is better, right? Wait, that would probably mean World War III. Never mind. The notorious Nighthawk. The Nighthawk. No, I don't mean the Marvel supervillain. I mean the United States secret superplane, the Lockheed F-117 Nighthawk. This sci-fi looking plane was so secret and super that its maiden flight in June 1981 was over Area 51. Yes, that Area 51. In 1983, it became operational but was kept under strict secrecy for years to protect American national security and interests. The Nighthawk is an attack plane designed using state-of-the-art stealth tech, meaning it's exceedingly hard for radar to pick it up. That's because of its shape. Right angles bounce signals back to radar, so the Nighthawk has none of them. It's also covered in radar-absorbent material, making it even more effective at evading detection. Nicknamed the Wobblin' Goblin by pilots that flew it because of its difficult handling, the Nighthawk was never actually leaked in the traditional sense. But throughout the 1980s, mysterious sightings and rumors fueled public interest in the strange craft. Then in 1988, the US government finally admitted its existence, after which it enjoyed another 20 years of service before being retired in 2008. However, the plane is still spotted around the world, including in California as recently as 2021, and is said to have been deployed in the Middle East after its official retirement. In the USA, it's still used for training, which might explain the Californian sightings. But why has it been seen in the Middle East? Maybe there's more to the Nighthawk than we know, even 40 years later. Aerocomet. Not every secret military aircraft looks like it's come straight out of a sci-fi movie. Take the P-59 Aerocomet. Despite that jazzy name, it looks pretty normal, right? But it was actually the first ever jet-powered aircraft made by the US, making it a pretty big deal. See, before jet engines, planes relied on propellers, which are way less powerful. With jet engines, planes were able to fly faster, for longer, and at higher altitudes. And guess who invented them? Germany, back in 1937. Because of this, once World War II was in full throttle, the Allies were super keen to catch up with the technology. The Brits were ahead of the US in jet development, so sent over one of their own engines to work from in 1941. The final result? The Aerocomet. Because the US didn't want any unfriendly powers to know about its advancement in the field, the whole project was kept super hush-hush. So much so that it was designated the working name XP-59, the same name as a cancelled propeller-based fighter, to trick anyone that might accidentally hear about it. They even attached a propeller to it when grounded. Despite all these measures though, it found itself in compromising positions fairly regularly. Like the time when rains flooded Muroc Airfield in California where the second prototype was being tested. As a result, it had to be towed 35 miles to a different airfield on a public road, no doubt giving prying eyes a good glimpse. Jeez. Ultimately, though, the Aerocomet never saw combat. It was underpowered in comparison with the British jets, and production was too slow for it to have had an effect on the war anyway. But it did give America valuable experience for their next attempt. Son of the Blackbird. The Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird is considered one of the greatest planes ever made. Able to whiz around the skies at over 3 times the speed of sound and travel for remarkable distances before having to land, it certainly earned its place in the Military Aircraft Hall of Fame. But what if I told you that it has an even more advanced son capable of completely dominating the skies? Meet the Lockheed SR-72. This spy plane can penetrate denied airspace and strike nearly any location across any continent in less than an hour. How? Because it can reach hypersonic speed and fire hypersonic missiles. That's over 5 times the speed of sound. Jeez, terrifying. Though apparently only a concept for now, a prototype is rumored to be scheduled to fly as soon as 2025. The words of Lockheed Martin Executive Vice President seem to contradict the fly in 2025 narrative, however. According to him, the tech is now mature, which could imply that the SR-72 or something similar might already be in flight. Has Lockheed Martin accidentally leaked the truth with this statement? Let's be honest, even if they have, it's not like we'd ever stand a chance of glimpsing this speedy superweapon. Northrop Grumman X-47B. Here's an aircraft so elusive, only 2 of them exist in the whole world. Developed for the US Navy as a successor to the impressive X-47A Pegasus, the X-47B is a tailless combat drone with folding wings that boast a whopping span of just over 62 feet when opened. But it isn't just the fearsome appearance of this craft that commands respect. It's developed with a GPS-based navigation system that gives it the ability to land autonomously and precisely on a moving Navy aircraft carrier. And it can also be pre-programmed to set out and complete a mission alone with little to no human intervention. Just 2 tons of automated weaponry. Cripes, this thing's like a real-life Terminator of the sky. From its first flight in 2011, it's routinely exceeded expectations. It performed so well during its testing period that it was packaged off early for sea testing. Able to reach an altitude of 40,000 feet and accommodate several kinds of surveillance sensors, it's a tour de force of aircraft engineering. You might be surprised to hear that it never actually moved out of testing. Instead, it was decommissioned and the 2 crafts were ultimately shipped back to land where they're expected to be exhibited in 2 aviation museums. What? Apparently, there were concerns that they'd prove too costly in the field and weren't stealthy enough to warrant that cost. However, a successor, the X-47C, is currently in development, and that drone is touted to be even more impressive. It seems a shame to shackle such an extraordinary piece of equipment to something as ordinary as a museum, doesn't it? But then again, maybe the 47C has tech we can't even begin to comprehend. Boeing Bird of Prey. If I say bird of prey, you might think of eagles or vultures. But there's one bird of prey that could have been far more dangerous than either of those, the Boeing Bird of Prey. The development of this craft back in the 1990s was a black project. That means it was highly classified, top secret, and not publicly acknowledged at all. It's believed to have been developed to run tests on state-of-the-art stealth tech, such as active camouflage that adapts to its surroundings and even prevents its own shadows. Game-changing stuff. However, its life as a black project was very short-lived. Despite being relatively low cost, the Bird of Prey only survived 3 years in testing and was retired before the turn of the century due to poor flying capabilities. Pah! What's the use in all that flashy high-tech stealth if it can't actually fly? By 2002, the craft was made public and now sits on display at the U.S. Air Force Museum entirely declassified. And well, that's pretty cool. You can go and see what was once one of America's most well-protected secrets up close and personal. Unfortunately for Boeing, that's only because it was a complete failure. Phew, all that talk of government secrecy and espionage has got me tired. Have you seen any spooky happenings in the skies that could be the next generation of jets? Drop a comment and let me know. And thanks for watching.